Hello, welcome to what we're going to call kind of a virtual orientation. Welcome new teachers to the ELA program in Kansas City Public Schools. I'm going to run you through some things. I wanted to start on screen and apologize immediately for not being there in person, but I am currently working, if you're watching this on this day, at a DESE week-long experience where we're doing the 8th grade item writing and just getting that started. So that's the first time that I've ever been asked to participate. So I'm going to take them up on that and learn a whole bunch by doing so about that process, and especially the new kind of expectations that we're going to build into the state of Missouri's new assessment. This is an indicator by starting this process that testing will change a little bit. So the tests we've had for the last 5 or 6 years will be revised and updated. And you're not allowed, when you're part of that process, to even communicate with very many other people during, and kind of, sign off to this like trustworthy arrangement. It's all the way in St. Louis. So that'll be really interesting. And I'll get to meet a bunch of other educators in the Missouri area. Also, hopefully represent Kansas City voices and views, and ask for more representation of some of our student population along the way. So if you're just joining me today, I'm going to run you through a couple slides that are going to be like basically the directions for how I'm going to try to do a flipped classroom lesson. Tomorrow even, I made a really experimental video that I think is fun that I included in Nearpod that you will be able to access and kind of participate with. And while you're doing that lesson, I would like you to think about how you might be able to create one, and why you would create one, and how you would implement some of those questions. Like Nearpod allows you to make a video or even a PowerPoint or a presentation like this one, and then implement little spots for people to respond, and you can collect their responses directly in the program. And that's really pretty savvy. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And that way I run through just maybe 10 minutes worth of information that I'm going to say are kind of like the overview of today and the directions. That way you could watch this again if you wanted and make sure you've covered everything for the day. And then I'm going to get into the resource, and I'm going to get into kind of our district curriculum. Well, let me just show you the slides, because that's what basically they're going to help explain. Okay. I'm also going to give you a chance to reach out and find any kind of questions you have to me or others, because I think that's the neatest part. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And for starters, thank you for joining. I've been on this team in its beginning when I started in 2001, and I taught at Paseo Academy. I was kind of the English and creative writing teacher in that situation, and did various forms of teaching throughout that whole time. So let's talk a little bit about the whole day at once. The first activity that I'm going to put in Nearpod for you that I think is really kind of a cool thing to start the day instead of then to end the day. And you could decide to do this by yourself, or you guys could do this in a group and, in a classroom, because everybody's going to have a chance to break away. You could watch this little video with a group of people. And then I would ask that you just simply perform that same letter to yourself, like you see featured in the video, with, the intent of sharing it, or at least with the intent of making it something that you value as the year goes on. Okay, I'm going to introduce myself, and I think that's important because this is your first impression of who I hope you look forward to working with. And so I know I need to earn your respect and let you know my experience. We're going to look at the district curriculum and what it means to get in there and dig around and find what you need. And I'm excited to show you the work that myself and other curriculum revisers have been doing over the summer. We had a team of 9 people working in ELA, and people put in a lot of great material, and we really kind of came up with, I think, a helpful structure that you can use. And we're going to talk about students and how they would access these materials. If you're watching this, just kind of remember that you'll never know the old way, but there is a new way in case students aren't ready to experience that, where they sign in a little bit differently this year. We'll talk about that. They put an S before their actual student number, and that's their login. Their password will be unique, and they know their own password, as it was in the past, but the login is designed that way so that anybody in the school could get into Infinite Campus and help a student who couldn't get into Clever know what their login was. And then Clever is one of the places where we access almost everything. It's a single sign-on location where if you go into Clever, there's multiple apps in there that we know students use, like iReady and StudySync, Reveal Math, other major platforms. Okay, we're going to look and talk about Infinite Campus and the Clever connection because I just kind of got that going. You'll need to know some special things so that you don't worry. Once your classes are built in Infinite Campus, then they will talk to the other resources and you will not need to build your own classes. So we'll talk about that and avert your worry. It's actually better if you don't try to build your own classes, because then when they auto-populate, you have two sets and it becomes cluttery and even adds to student confusion if you've started with a different set. So I'm going to show you a new part of ELA curriculum and the website that we have that is built up now with a lot of great stuff in it that I'm calling the ELA Hub. We may talk a little bit about blended learning and just show some examples of those three models. And then I want you to explore the ELA Hub and the curriculum website and look for some things that are useful and tell me how, and find a task that you believe you could perform during this time that is going to be, I guess, some asynchronous work that you think would be valuable. Like maybe we'll give some examples of that, but planning your curriculum and whatnot. All right, this person in this picture over here, that's me. I'm in an airport. I'm in, at this moment, I think I was in Atlanta. It was kind of the coolest moment in my teaching career. That is April Williams, who is a Navy person these days. She's in the Navy. She's gone back into the Navy after she was early in the Navy. And she was one of my students a long way back. And we just happened to be crossing each other, walking in, believe it or not, Atlanta airport. And so to me, that's just a fun thing. After you've been teaching quite a while, people go off and do so many cool things. And I think the goal for all of us as educators is to kind of, a chance to dial back in and say, how you doing? And how's your life going? So I've actually done that some lately. And I have a broadcast TV show that I'd like to show you guys too, as new teachers, that when I was a new teacher, I really didn't envision that I would, go that far with the whole idea and go ahead and interview my students from the past, but kind of neat. So I've been in education 21 years this year. I got to go to the gala for our district and it was really cool. 15 of those years I was in the classroom at one school at Paseo. And like I said, teaching everything from 6th through 12th grade and creative writing and college English for dual credit. From there, I started without a master's and kind of worked my way through 2 or 3 more of those degrees, just little by little. So now I have my EDS and administrative background degree, kind of thinking about working on that next little step with the EDD. Okay, so I am born and raised in Kansas City. I went to our district. I'm a Lincoln College Prep Academy graduate. I'm very proud of that because it set me up to be a very strong thinker and socially aware of our city. I love poetry. I am a poet. I've published a few in my life. I'm a musician. I play keyboards and hang out with my friends as a way to kind of dial back into who I am. I'm an instructional coach. That's one of the roles that you'll experience. I can help you structure your time, think about the challenges in the room. I have definitely in 15 years experienced lots of those. So if you're honest and open to what you need help with, then I can be really helpful. I would call myself somewhat of a change agent. I think that's a fun thing to work toward instead of just fiddling around with why we're here. But I would like to see our world be a better place. I got involved with Better Lesson, which is a big national website, and got certified as called a master teacher in culturally responsive teaching and learning. So there's my contacts. And on this page, I'll send you this in our Google Classroom. That little link that says YCP is a really neat album called Youth Culture Power. I learned about it when I was at the Hip Hop Ed Conference, which is actually what I'm coming back from in that slide right there, and just alive as can be and excited about education. So, okay, so one thing I'm going to point out to you on this slide is that I was looking for, there's got to be some things out there that are kind of updating regularly for new teachers to read. And you want to be careful what you read, that, you can lead yourself to positive or negative thinking. So at the top, there's a really great group that updates all the time. And you can go to latest once you're in there, or you can go to most popular. So you can see kind of what new teachers have been wanting to know the most. And you can see kind of what's the most current. That's on Edutopia. That link in the middle is really cool too. It's just a long-term planning tool that you could start to think about. I think that's going to be what you're wondering a lot. And then on the bottom, I just found this kind of by looking again online, and I found 20 of the best online teacher communities. There's some good ones out there. And then again, I said, be careful, because if you're looking to celebrate how hard teaching is, there's also groups that, may not be the most positive. So, but do look at those on that list if you want to, when we have a time to explore. Okay, these are other links that I just want to share with you today. And again, you're going to have a chance to explore these slides, but then a whole bunch of other things that I've kind of collated and curated on our website. I won't explain all these kind of do explain themselves, but this is a pretty strong grouping of some of the ones you might need the most when you're starting this year. So you could refer back to this slide and kind of keep it handy, or copy and paste this and put it somewhere. The very bottom one is very handy because it says KCPS Clever Access, and I'm going to click it and show you what happens. And what's important to know, especially for new teachers and helping students, is it says Kansas City Public Schools at the top. That's important because Clever is a big giant product that exists across the whole country. And it's not necessarily true that when you're in the one Clever, that it's the one associated with our Kansas City Public Schools. So when you share those links with students, sometimes you can alleviate some of that wonder and save a lot of time and frustration. Okay, so some of the district-wide things that you would want to know kind of walking in the door. Let me keep sharing my screen here. Are that we do testing kind of strategically, and we're going to use it as a way to assess where we are and plan where we're going 3 times a year. So that's called interim testing. And you'll notice that those dates are not necessarily super strong right now as far as for certainty, but pretty strong as a guess, because those are based on last year. But we will definitely do something similar as we prepare, each time to get a little better at what are sometimes very similar, but we can't tackle all the standards in every test all the time and really tear it down into a smaller problem. Okay, the second bullet says proficiency scales. And so you'll find when I show you some of the unit maps that there's a lot of information in a proficiency scale. And when you're looking, it's kind of a 4-leveled system where level 2 contains a lot of the foundational knowledge that we might explore as a way to make sure we're operating mostly at a level 3, which is the proficiency level that is our target. And then level 4 is an advanced, which often involves, some of the nuances of writing and reading that students who are more advanced in comprehension have time and energy left to practice. So we don't want to forget that those level 4 skills really do draw a lot of power themselves. Okay, and then the bottom bullet is a data deep dive. This is where a PLC discussion and planning in your schools will take place, and it will surround these interim tests. And by taking the interim tests, hopefully you'll have some pretty good outcomes, but then also some pretty obvious places to readdress. And the unit maps are set up and ready for you to decide what resource and when and how you do that. So a big goal is going to be that in a data deep dive, how the student, which standard, and which strategy you're going to put in place before we would assess that again. Okay, so bottom link on this page is one more kind of big hub of lots of information. It's provided by our resource itself. So I wanted you to be able to see that. If you are curious about like green reports and the research that goes behind the particular one of the particular resources that we use, I would certainly like you to have access to that. And so it's that blue link at the bottom of this page. That is my email, and you could definitely hit me with questions immediately, and I check it all the time, and I will write you back directly. That's the easiest way to ask questions about this coming year, and please do. And then the middle link says Life After KCPS. It's kind of neat. Let me just go there, and we'll call it good on these introduction video and welcome. But this is a fun little project that I took on with a bunch of students from the past. Let's see, here's one of my interviews that I did, but it started at home, obviously. And like, this is a student that went to Lincoln Prep, and I did not necessarily teach her. She is from my era when I was also there, but she's also kind of a nationally renowned poet, and been on HBO and done a lot of things with spoken word. So I get a chance in this show and in this platform to talk to people who have come from KCPS. And it's a goal to show maybe other people that there are great examples. And it's another opportunity for students to see pathways that they're not always exposed to or might envision for themselves. So I hope that's been kind of a cool tutorial. And you have seen what I'm going to ask you to work on today. It's basically going to take the form of more smaller videos that I don't hope to go on for on and on and on, but oops, pushed the wrong thing. I think those videos will kind of help you see, again, how to navigate, and then also how to explore, because the goal for this is not going to be for you to sit and listen so much, but for you to kind of hear a snapshot and then be able to come back to this video in the need that you want to, but then to go off and explore. So the next video I show you is going to be me leading you in that exploration of our unit maps and our scope and sequence, and then the ELA hub. So I really look forward to showing you that, because like I said, it's really getting pretty well put together by the team we had this summer. All right, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you guys in person.